Today I will be reviewing the Netflix original animated movie Gnome Alone. This movie it's something else. Let's just put it like that. It was definitely something that I more suffered through than sat through. So let's just get into it. Okay, so first off, this movie is made by a bunch of studios I don't recognize. So that's never a good sign. Except one, Vanguard, which seems kind of familiar. So I looked it up, and turns out that they worked kind of on the Shrek movies. But things started looking bad when I scrolled down to their independent movie section, and I saw cinematic masterpieces like Space Chimps and Space Chimps 2. So yeah, it's not looking great for Vanguard. So already going into it with low expectations. Also, I just want to say that this movie is most likely a movie where they came up with the name first and then made the movie and not the other way around. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at the name Gnome Alone and you're like, funny pun. But these guys took it like a step further, you know? Like, I feel like a guy named Frank in a board meeting made a joke about gnomes and being alone. And that's how this movie started. I'm pretty sure that's actually what the IMDb page says. The movie with luggage. We see that mom, Catherine, and her daughter, Chloe, are moving. Apparently this has become commonplace for them because we hear Catherine talking to her sister on the phone. And holy cow, Catherine's sister really hammers her for moving all the time. Also, Chloe's mom likes her hair. She actually says she likes her hair. And then Chloe takes out her phone and writes a note to herself that says, change hair color. Like, why is this a problem? Why is it a problem if your mom likes your hair color? Like, wouldn't that be more reason to, keep your actual hair color? Like, why? Is it just to spite her for some unknown reason? You know? Because, she could be like, oh, yeah, my, pink-headed dipshit in the back, I hate her hair. What a little bitch. All right, so these two have moved from New England to Tenderville. Tenderville, man. That's the name. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I reckon Tenderville is a step down from New England. So yeah, they drive up to their Adam family's looking-ass house. Just like Chloe says, there's probably actual bones in the house, though. Upon entering the house, the mom tries the light switch, and to no avail. They're out of power. They got no power. But for some reason, Chloe tells her phone to set a reminder to buy light bulbs. I feel like that step is further down the line in the process. I feel like getting actual power and not living like an 18th century pioneer is the first step. And then you go for light bulbs. Also, she just says phone set a reminder. She doesn't say when to remind her, in an hour or whatever. She'll probably be on her deathbed and her phone will be like, oh, reminder to get light bulbs. And she's like, oh shit, unplug the machine, go get some light bulbs. So yeah, Chloe walks into the kitchen and she sees 3 gnomes standing in front of her, staring right at her, and a very detailed and lifelike ones at that. Okay, how do you not at least be a little creeped out when seeing this, Chloe's just like, there's gnomes in the house. Well, actually, she calls them little Santas, which is cringe as hell. I don't know how you make that mistake. Since Chloe is a stereotypical high school girl with family problems, she's on her phone all the time, and she looks to get a Wi-Fi signal from somewhere in the house. Unfortunately, without internet, Chloe can't play sad, lonely, painful, and hurt love. Which is a major bummer. Critics are raving about it, apparently. She anger stomps the wall, revealing a hidden stairway to the attic. Of course, her insatiable hunger for internet leads her up into the attic, and she sees this shit. Chloe is acting way too calm for finding an infinity stone in her attic. That's all I'm saying, if I went up to my attic and found a glowing bright green gem, I would be like, why, and if that, isn't odd enough, she goes back down the stairs and is greeted by 7 gnomes just standing and staring directly at her. And so yeah, she does the reasonable thing anyone would do if they found sentient gnomes with ill intent living in their house. She gives them away for free. Then we get introduced to this stereotypical nerd who can't talk named Liam. He definitely has brain damage because he gives himself pep talks like mid-conversation, and it's kind of creepy. But hey, maybe Liam used to live in this house. It would complement his brain since it's scuffed as shit. At the dinner table, we discover that Mom is a little too busy to have time with Chloe. Chloe's pissed at Mom for always moving because she can never make real friends, which is understandable. I'd be pissed too if I couldn't actually settle down and get some side bitches, you know what I'm saying? After dinner, some weird things start happening, like little men running around the house and things getting bumped and moved around, you know? Kind of weird. So, yeah. Next morning, we see that Chloe turns the little gem she found into actually a pretty cool looking necklace. Like, that's kind of drip. She then gets ready and heads off to school for her first day of school. But when she walks out the door, unfortunately, a rift in the dark dimension opened and spit out a purple gator-skinned ball. Honestly, should have saw that one coming. At school, Chloe runs into Liam while they're eating lunch, right? You know, it's all great. But, you know, classic Liam, he demonstrates more psychotic tendencies like he did the other day by talking to himself. Liam's little serial killer-ish episode is cut short when three bitches walk in who are apparently known as the BTCs. Brittany, Tiffany, and Chelsea. Liam, trash talks the BTCs. Then he gets hit in the face with a ball. Also, I only now realized that when I'm actually doing the voiceover for the video that the BTCs stand for Brittany, Tiffany, and Chelsea. Yeah, it took me 2 times watching this movie and being part of the way through my voiceover to actually realize that. Since Chloe wants to fit in so much, she goes and talks to the BTCs. Brittany, the leader of the BTC, invites her to a dance tonight, but only if Chloe lends Brittany her magic cool necklace. Which is kind of weird when you think about it, because it's like, if it's a school dance, like, I feel like it's not like a thing where, like, you can only go if you're invited by another student. At home, Chloe makes some gourmet corn dogs, which are promptly eaten by one of those gator skin ball thingies that we saw pop out of the portal. Chloe turns around all horror movie style and sees the little gator skin ball let out a god-sized belch, and she promptly runs away screaming. Unfortunately, the little purple ball threatened Chloe by demanding food, that it be fed lots and lots of food. For some reason, she feeds it. She feeds it everything in all the food. And she doesn't, like, she actually feeds him until night comes, okay? And she doesn't stop once to think that, maybe I shouldn't feed the little purple demon ball. So she feeds it so much till nighttime that purple ball is wasted. And he turns out looking like me on an average Friday night. And so Chloe takes her chance to sneak off. But oh no, there's another purple devil ball, and it chases Chloe around. Actually has her cornered, right? But a glob of what seems to be a goo, I guess, comes out of the side of the screen and hits the purple ball, and it disappears, saving Chloe. After that, Chloe meets these gnomes, one of which is a small one with a big hammer, and then they all start looting her, for lack of a better term, for something called the keystone. I'm gonna assume is the crystal thing that she took from the attic. We also get some exposition from the main guy. He says that if they don't get the keystone, it'll be the end of everything. Kind of high stakes. So the next morning, the gnomes tie up and interrogate Chloe about the keystone. I probably called her Chloe like 80 billion times by now on accident, but like, I don't care. Whatever, Chloe. And so the gnomes interrogate her, and they want the keystone, and they're serious about it. And we also get some information that with the keystone, the portals can be stopped somehow. But if the keystone isn't returned, a great darkness will spread across the land. Also, the purple alligator skin ball things are called trogs. I will admit, though, it is kind of funny when all the gnomes hear Chloe's phone, like the phone assistant speaking to her, and they all just like beat the shit out of the phone. It's kind of funny. Also, apparently the ooze guns don't kill the Trogs. They just send them back to their own dimension or whatever. So after the interrogation, Chloe says that she can get the keystone at the dance night when Brittany brings her necklace back. One of the biggest disgraces of this movie is that the people who made it think that this movie is worthy of a Gandalf reference. And it's not. It's just simply not. It can't do it. You have to hit a certain, level of movie quality to be able to do Lord of the Rings references, you know? But if you don't reach that level and there's a reference, it's just like, wow, why would you do my Big EG like that, you know? Liam asks if Chloe wants to come over right in the middle of the whole Trog gnome thing. And Liam gets a little too nosy, unfortunately, and gets tied up in Trog gnome situation. When Chloe goes to school that day, she asks Brittany for the necklace, and Brittany doesn't have it. So she goes home and breaks the news to the gnomes that she couldn't get the keystone. And as punishment, they smash her shins with a fire poker.
I take back all the nice things I said.
And, this part here is insane. Liam just watches as a bunch of Trogs jump onto Chloe and just maul her. He just watches. Like it's a spectator sport for him. He has the gun. He has the goo gun. He has the ability to kill him, but he just watches for some reason. Then after that display of heroism, get shitty, not understandable lore about Trogs and gnomes that I don't care about because it's bad and doesn't make sense. And it doesn't explain why things are like it at all. They don't explain what Trogs are. They don't explain why Trogs eat things. They don't explain how the portals work at all. It's so dumb. It makes no sense. They also talk about the Trogs wanting to eat and destroy shit and that being their only purpose. But we only see the one Trog that Chloe fed. That's the only time we see a Trog eat anything. The entire movie is when Chloe feeds it. I don't know. Kind of scuffing up on your main purpose there, my guys. That's all I'm saying. Step it up. So yeah, the gnomes and Chloe and Liam hunt around the house for Trogs and whatnot, and eventually they end up in the basement, and a Trog portal opens, and we see that the lead gnome talks about how there used to be a seventh. Yeah, how there used to be 7 gnomes. You see a shot where he's tearing up and sad, and I think we're supposed to feel the emotion known as sadness, but I'm not really getting it. I don't really care about this unnamed gnome character that just was mentioned just now. Yeah, I couldn't care less, honestly. Yeah, it's honestly just trying to actually get some sympathy out of the audience because it is not evoked any emotion in me except hate so far, and maybe a bit of hopelessness. Anyway, by now you're probably wondering what's the green goo, you know? So the gnomes explain it. Well, they don't even explain it. They actually just show us that the goop's from some plant, and the lead gnome is actually says I don't know what it is or why it's here, and that's all we get. That's his explanation. That's his explanation for the goo. They could have just breezed over the goo, you know, and just not tell us about it. But they're hey, let's also make the gnomes not know what the fuck is going on. We as writers, we don't know what the fuck is going on, but let's also make it so the gnomes don't know what the fuck is going on. So we get more of the gnomes and Liam and Chloe figuring out different ways to dispose of the Trogs most effectively. After the montage, Chloe and the gnome leader pass a bubble crack pipe, having a good time, taking a hit off the good old bubble crack pipe. We also see Chloe treat Liam like a piece of shit because she wants to fit in. But the time to go to the dance is now at hand, and Chloe dresses up all nice and heads out. And not only does Chloe treat Liam like shit earlier, he also shuns him at the school dance so she can fit in with the BTCs. After treating Liam like he's a walking piece of garbage, Liam leaves to go home and help with the Trogs because he feels unwanted. When Liam goes home, a Trog portal opens up and Liam falls in. Bummer, dude. Such a lovable and memorable character lost. I'm pretty sure I'm getting the same feelings I got when Mufasa died. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Liam going into the Trog portal is definitely on the same level. Yeah, it's pretty much like the same thing. So, Chloe can't get the keystone from Brittany, and she goes home. The gnomes say that Liam, he fell into a portal. And Chloe mans up and goes on a rescue mission for Liam, because she feels bad about treating him awfully, and she wants to make it up to him. So she goes into the Trog dimension. So that's cool. That's cool. But rewind a little bit, okay? When Chloe was coming home after being all sad and feeling bad for being a douchebag to Liam, you have like this pop song, like this really on-the-nose pop song about how Chloe is feeling and whatnot, instead of like the audience, figuring it out for themselves. No, they just like, oh, I messed up. I was mean to my friend Liam, and it's like, okay, all right, kind of catering here a little bit, What are the people watching this all kids? So, okay, back to the Trog Dark Dimension rescue mission. Chloe gets in there, frees Liam from a cocoon of Trogs, and that gnome that got lost in the dimension a while ago that we were supposed to be sad about? He shows up, and he's not all there. So this little guy, I forget his name. It's like I think it starts with an S, but I could be wrong. But he explains that Trogs are forming into a Megatrog, which is the culmination of all Trogs, and are gonna burst through on Earth and wreak havoc. I don't know, why they would do that. It seems like they could be more efficient if they, spread out as little balls and stuff, instead of do that, but because plot, because false tension, because good movie, 10 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes. So they're all worried about the big Trog breaking through, and they need to find a way to close the portals. So this is what they come up with. They find this big green crystal floating around in the Trog dimension for some reason, and Liam uses the lithium battery and Chloe's phone to blow up the crystal cluster and destroy the Trog world. And I have multiple questions. One, why is a crystal that can just destroy the entire Trog world floating around in their dimension? Why is it just conveniently here? I mean, I know it's conveniently there because they need somehow to resolve the plot, but it seems kind of like a flaw, The Trogs just leave the thing that can destroy their entire world just sitting within reach, Also, that has to be a huge explosion. We see that the Trog dimension is actually seemingly infinite. There's no end to it. It just seems like an endless void of Trog balls, right? So you need a ginormous explosion. Maybe there's not even an explosion big enough if the world's infinite, but you need a big explosion to actually get rid of the Trog's entire dimension. Also, it doesn't even work. It doesn't even reach far enough to kill the Megatrog, which was not that far away, because the Megatrog comes out of a portal, apparently, even though they quote-unquote blew up the Trog world, and somehow the Megatrog was unscathed, but everything else around it died. Somehow it's still alive, and it crawls out of the portal. So the explosion wasn't even big enough to cover, 300 yards. The writers expect us as viewers to be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So the Megatrog comes out of the portal and attacks our heroes or whatever, and one of the gnomes goes all John Kramer and says, "Game over." Can we actually have the Saw movies, but with gnomes? These gnomes specifically? Because they definitely have some misdeeds that they need to be punished for sure. Mainly the unforgivable misdeed of being born. I would pay good money to go see that. But that's besides the point. The Megatrog chases the kids and the gnomes up on top of the roof. They're kind of trapped, seemingly without a way to stop the Megatrog from destroying everything. And how does nobody in this neighborhood see the Megatrog or hear it? It roars very, very loud. I think that the people on the block would either see or hear the Trog fighting a group of gnomes and children on top of a roof. I feel that that's something that's pretty hard to miss. Chloe defeats the Megatrog by throwing the goo plant into its mouth, and the Megatrog explodes, and everybody's happy, and they all sing Kumbaya, and nothing is ever wrong anymore. So, yeah, there's so much wrong with this movie, it's hard to unpack it all. First off, the characters are, like, so shallow and, like, two-dimensional and just face value. Chloe is your stereotypical pink-haired teenager with no depth at all. Brittany and her gang of bitches are just your typical high school snobby girls, and they serve no purpose to the plot except to take the keystone, which actually doesn't matter in the end at all. And they have no character arcs either. They're just there. Liam is your typical nerd in every high school movie that gets picked on. Throughout the movie, he builds up bravery and whatever and makes friends. The gnomes, there's nothing, like, unique about them. They're just stereotypical as hell. You have the gruff leader. You have the old guy. You have the trio who, like, are buddy-buddy. And Sandfear, the one that got lost in the Trog dimension but comes back at the end of the movie, serves no purpose at all. The movie actually would not have changed at all if he had not appeared. It was just for false suspense, basically. Granted, he is kind of funny and unique. He's like a crazy old gnome who smothers himself in trog poop. I would have liked to see more of him, but there's no point because he was just a plot device. And that's it. Actually, no, he wasn't a plot device. He wasn't vital to the plot at all. He was just for suspense and trying to milk some sort of emotion out of you. Just trying to get a drop of sadness from the audience. The little one named Pocket who carries a hammer around is kind of unique too, but it's never explained why he carries around a hammer, so it's just kind of random. He's just kind of cram-packed in there. Their main mission is to get the keystone back, and the entire movie they're trying to get the keystone back, and they don't even succeed on that front. And Chloe, of course, her character arc is so bland. It doesn't even fully fix itself either. Like, I'm not exactly sure what her character arc is. Is it supposed to be that, she finds the value of friendship or something? Like, all that happens throughout this movie is that she blows up the Trog dimension, but only halfway, and made a friend with potentially a serial killer and a group of Home Depot garden decorations with goo gun. That's it. That's all that happened. The plot is just super shallow and lazy. There's no stakes. They say that the Trogs, their main goal is to devour everything, but there's only one instance of a Trog eating stuff, and that's at the beginning when Chloe actually feeds it. Throughout the movie, no Trogs ever eat anything else. You never see a Trog eat anything once. And you have this whole lore that's like, oh, the Trogs ate the gnome dimension or whatever. It's not backed up. There's nothing to back it up. They establish lore and say things are a certain way, but they don't build upon it at all. They just say it, and then we're supposed to take it like at face value, and that's it. The gnomes having magic, they never use it. The Trogs eating shit never happens, and yeah, it's like, a lot of parts of the movie were just had these really cheesy on-the-nose pop songs just explained the movie or what was going on at the current moment to you, and it was pretty annoying. So when Chloe was feeling bad about trash-talking Liam, you have the song that's like, I lost a friend, I messed up, or whatever. And it's so on the nose that it just ruins the moment. It doesn't let you process what Chloe's feeling, it just tells you what she's feeling. There's no emotional investment at all. I've felt worse for flies I've killed. And then how they resolve the plot is like stupid as well. They blow up the Trog dimension, but they don't even do it. The Megatrog still comes out of the portal. They don't even close the portals. They just blow up the dimension, say they do, but they don't. So technically Trogs could still come out because the Megatrog still came out of the portal. But they're just like, oh, it's fine. You know, we got the Megatrog. I'm sure there's no other Trogs in there. Even though we saw evidence that our blowing up the Trog world plan did not work. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's whatever. And there's a plethora of other things with this movie that they don't explain or that's bad. Like, they don't explain, like, why Chloe's mom is such a MILF, you know? And, you know, it's like, explain, please. So, Gnome Alone is just bad. Overall, it's awful. Don't watch it. I'd rather watch my lava lamp heat up than watch this movie again. Okay, bye.